Hello everyone, welcome to this workshop. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. I'm just going to make Katie a presenter. In just a moment I'll make Katie a presenter, make her a host so that she's got the wheel, but I just want to welcome you to the call. Say hi in the chat so that we know you're here and where you're joining us from. Hello Anne-Marie, lovely to see you here. Just say hi in the chat if you can. Miss you too. That's nice. Hi Charlotte from Willow Glen in Cedar City, Utah. Welcome. I see Denny. I see Callie. I see Lee. So just say hi in the chat. We'll just get going in a few minutes. Hi Denny. Here we go. Right, I will just make this live in a second, and then we will go. Right, okay, let's get started. I'm going to introduce Katie and then I'm going to bring her on and she's going to talk to you about how to use your human design to stand out from the crowd. Hello, Layla from Nashville. Great to have you here. All right, so let's share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so welcome to this workshop on how to discover your hosting genius, unlocking your potential with human design, with me, Yvonne Halling at bedandbreakfastcoach.com, and my friend and human design expert, Katie Davies, accountability and business strategist at Piece of Cake Coaching. So just have a pen and paper ready to take notes. And switch off all of your other distractions if you can. Participate as much as you want to and ask as many questions as you want to as we go through, and we'll more likely than not come to your questions at the end. So who's Yvonne Halling? For those of you who are new here, and we do have some new faces, I just want to let you know who I am first. I built a B&B business in France, from making practically zero to making over 100,000 euros a year in 2 seasons with just 4 rooms and no online travel agents. I'm the creator of bedandbreakfastcoach.com, where we help owners worldwide to make more money, have more fun, and work less. I'm an award-winning online marketer and hospitality coach and mentor. We have helped hundreds of clients worldwide, if not thousands now, to increase their revenue and their happiness levels. And many of our clients have doubled and some have even tripled their B&B revenue. So that's just a little bit about me in case we haven't met before, so that you know why I'm doing this. So Katie, our lovely guest presenter today, has a background in marketing, tons and tons of experience in marketing for some blue chip Fortune 500, I think, companies. She worked self-employed in her own business for 9 years as a wedding cake designer. And she is now a business strategist and mentor using human design. So I'm going to stop sharing now and I'm going to bring Katie on so that she can then share her screen with you. And okay. Promote you to panelist, Katie, first, and then I'll make you the host. Hey.
Hello.
Oh, hello, welcome, Katie.
This is all very exciting.
I'll make you the host. I'll switch off my video and then you've got the wheels, darling.
got the wheels. I've never been a panelist on a webinar before. This is exciting. I mean, if you want to say anything, Yvonne, join in, ask questions, or read me the questions from the chat, please do.
I will do that.
Let me just share my screen. Also, let's see if I can open the chat, if I can multitask. So, hello everyone. I am Katie. As Yvonne said, I am originally, I worked at marketing agency, and then I left to start my own wedding cake business. So it was the event business, but slightly different, obviously, to your hosting and your B&Bs. And then I started mentoring. I did the two businesses alongside. Then I closed my cake business and human design. How many of you heard of human design? I don't know if you want to put it in the chat before you came on this webinar, or if this is the first time you're ever hearing about human design. I would love to know if anyone wanted to share. So I found human design and then I integrated it into my mentoring in my business. So what even is human design? So Charlotte, first time. Lee, you've had a report done. Oh, amazing. So for me, what I say about human design is it gives you, or it gave me, when I discovered it, the external permission to stop questioning everything you always knew to be true. So there's lots of things that we know about ourselves, or we think about ourselves, and we rightly or wrongly, we can let outside noise come in. And in human design, that is called conditioning. It could just be little things, stories about money doesn't grow on trees and all different things is kind of an example of conditioning. But what human design does is, or everyone that I have worked with so far, is when they start to look into their design, it's almost like somebody has written all the things you were thinking on piece of paper in black and white and told you, so you can stop questioning it. So that's why I dived into it when I first found it. And that is why I then brought it into my coaching to help others to actually harness their power of human design. Because in the online world, when we run a business, whether online, offline, we have to make so many decisions, and there's so many choices around how we can do it, especially in the marketing world as well, like all the different things we could be doing. And what human design can really do is help you to lean in to the things that are going to support you the most. So the idea behind it is, if you follow your strategy and your authority in human design, everything should feel easier, and we want everything to feel easy. We don't want to feel in our business like it's hard work and we're pushing. And sometimes there can be a resistance because we're slightly following the wrong path, and a different path would be better for us. And that's what human design kind of brings to the table for you. So as you may have seen, if you have filled in the human design chart, I believe Yvonne sent it out before. If anyone needs the link, let me know, and I can try and navigate my way to the link and put it in the chat. But everyone's just
I just put that in there. I did ask everybody who signed up to the workshop to do their chart, but maybe some people have it, so I put it in the chat.
Perfect. So as you will have seen, it is derived from your time, date, and location of birth. And so what happens when you pop that data in? Somehow, the magic of data, you are returned your human design chart, and it is a combination of modern and ancient modalities. It's astrology, Kabbalah, Chinese I Ching, chakra system, also a little bit quantum mechanics in there. Now, in order to use your human design, you don't need to understand how that works. You don't need to know any of that. But if you're interested, that's where it actually comes from. So if you went to my website and you downloaded your chart, you will have been presented with something that looks like this. Probably thought, oh my goodness, that is a lot of shapes, numbers, squares. What's all that about? Now, again, there tends to be two types of people when they first discover their human design: those that want to know everything, want to know how it works, or those that just really want to know what it means for them. So I do have a series of videos and different things where I do explain all the different numbers and how everything works, but we're not going to go through that today. But the main thing I'm going to go through today is your type and your profile. So underneath the chart, as you will have found, it returns little nice paragraphs of information. And one of the ones at the top mentions your type. And so there are 5 types in human design. There is the manifestor, generator, manifesting generator, projector, and reflector. So if you have already got your chart, I would love to know in the chat which type you are. So I know who we've got here. So I am a manifesting generator, and this is actually my chart that you see here. And Yvonne, you are a projector. So Yvonne is a projector.
I am indeed.
So Lee, you're a manifestor. Okay, I will try and remember some of these as I go through, but what I'm going to take you through is how those types, what we want to do, the whole point of the human design system. I mean, it can tell us everything, it can tell us anything really, but what we're trying to do is utilize the parts of it that are going to support you in your business, no matter what that business might be. So 9% of the population are manifestors. So Lee, you are here to initiate. And the next set are generators, 38%, manifesting generators, 32%. So we then have projectors, which are 22%, and reflectors, 1%. So you might sort of notice that what I've tried to do here is show you, this might be a little bit advanced, but you might come back to this, or it might make more sense later. The way that we are, when we're given the type, whether you're manifestor, generator, manifesting generator, projector, or reflector, it's based on certain things that are activated within your chart. So what we're looking at is how we use the different centers. So all these little triangles and squares are called centers, and they essentially have they are either defined or undefined. So when you start looking into human design, there is quite a lot of terminology, but once you get to grips with it, it does make a lot of sense, which is quite why people like it, because once you've got to grips with the terminology, it does make sense. So when you downloaded your chart, you will have seen some parts are colored in and some parts are white. And where the parts are colored in, that is where you're consistently in your own energy. Where the centers are white, that is where you take on the energy of others. And depending on which of these squares and triangles are defined, i.e. colored in, is what gets you your type. Now, if we look at an analogy of all the types working together on the same project, a manifestor, let's say we're building a house. So my analogy for how all the types work together is building a house. And then what we can do is see how that relates to the energy that that particular type would have. So a manifestor is designed to initiate. And in the example or analogy of building a house, the manifestor is likely to start the project, is likely to find the land, get the investment, get the architect on board, and like kind of kickstart the process of the house build. And because the manifestor is going to initiate the whole system. Now, when we go back to our little graphs of the different types, and we're thinking about energy, the manifestor does not have access to the main sacral energy. So the sacral, which is this square here, is kind of like the main battery pack, the biggest power energy source of the human design. So without that center, the manifester doesn't always follow through on their projects. And what they really are here to do is to kind of have a team that supports them. So in the kind of hosting world, it might be that you have a team to support you in your bed and breakfast or your venue, and you don't actually do everything yourself. So you initiate it, you start it, but you're really supported by having a team to follow things through. Now, that team is likely to be made up of the generator and the manifesting generator. So in the house build situation, the generator, the manifesting generator would likely be the people that did the building of the house itself. So there's lots of different parts. It could be the plastering, the painting, the roofing, but it's more because they do have that sacral energy defined. They do actually have the energy that to sustain the project all the way through, if it's something that lights them up. So when you start to learn about your sacral in human design, it's your sacral is kind of giving you the things that you are lit up about. So we have I'm a manifesting generator. So we have the energy to see things through if it's something we're excited about. So if it's a project we're not excited about, then we don't have that limitless energy to do it. The difference between the two, the generator is potentially likely to follow things in a linear pattern, and the manifesting generator is likely to zigzag and kind of switch between things. So in the sort of house building analogy, maybe the generator would move through the house and all the different rooms in a more organized fashion. The manifesting generator would potentially do a bit of this room, bit of that room, bit of this room, bit of that room, go back to that room. And so to everyone else, it might look a little bit kind of ziggy-zaggy, but they both get to the end result the same. It's just the generator potentially tends to prefer things in a bit more of an ordered fashion, and a manifesting generator tends to multitask and is the fastest moving. So again, if you are looking at how it supports you best, is letting people know how you work and not constraining yourself into different boxes. So as a generator, you might potentially like to group bigger tasks together, and not to be interrupted and be able to kind of concentrate and move through things. A manifesting generator, you're likely to skip all over the place throughout the day, but that is right for you. So sometimes manifesting generators can try and force themselves to do things in a linear fashion. That doesn't really work. Then in the house building situation, the projector is likely to be the project manager, so guiding. Now again, the projector does not have the sacral, so doesn't have that same energy source that the generator and the manifesting generator do. So the projector is more likely to be, like I said, the project manager. So they're still working, but in a different way and guiding. So again, in the kind of hospitality industry, or your best use is to manage your energy and make sure you're not getting burnt out. So one of the things with a projector, I know Yvonne can talk about this from experience, is managing your energy, because it's just not there in the same way as maybe the other types have.
Absolutely. And if I could just interject there, Katie, I am a projector, and that managing my energy was crucial for me running my B&B, because I had to make sure that I had time to myself every day in order for me to give all of myself to my guests when they were in my on my property. So that meant limiting the amount of time that I spent with them. I wasn't the sort of person, the sort of host who would like be there for them 24/7, because that would have burnt me out.
Mm.
So, but that might work for a manifesting generator who loves the variety of flipping from one task to another and works really well like that. But that doesn't work for a projector like me, who needs to have downtime more than the generator or the manifesting generator, who have that sacral energy pack, right?
Yes. So with all of the types, you can still approach burnout. You can still get it wrong if you're doing the things that don't feel right for you. But as a projector, my dad's a projector, and my mum always used to call him lazy, bless him, because he would take lots of rest through the day. And, you know, if he was doing the gardening, he'd have a little sit down, and he kind of like my mum, who I don't actually know what time my mum was because I don't know what time she was born, but I feel really sorry for him now because I didn't know human design and I didn't understand. And I think because with the stats, the percentages, if you look, the generator and the manifesting generator added together is the biggest percentage. So when you find out your human design, if you're a manifester, a projector, or a reflector, that tends to make the biggest difference to people. If you're a generator or manifesting generator, you might find that you've kind of followed your alignment without realizing it because the world is set up for these types. But if you're a projector, or I haven't mentioned reflectors yet, it really is important. I've known a lot of projectors who've not known they're projectors and actually have had a lot of health issues because they're just using their energy in the wrong way. And as a projector, you do need a lot of rest. And my dad is not lazy. He was actually a very embodied projector, and we just didn't know it.
Bless him.
So, as a reflector, you would have had a chart. If any reflectors here, it's only 1%. I only know 2 reflectors. There is no defined centers in the chart at all. So you basically, as a reflector, reflect back the energy that comes into your system. So therefore, at the end of the house build, they would kind of come along and would be able to take in the energy. The whole of human design is all about energy. Everything about it is about the energy, and whether you're putting out energy, whether you're using energy, whether you're absorbing energy. And as a reflector is very influenced by their environment because that's what they're taking in, and then they reflect back what they see. So at the end of the house build, the reflector would, you know, come along and be the estate agent saying, well, yeah, I like it, it's worth this much, type of thing. So when you are thinking about how that works within your business, like I said, there's the manifestor is the initiator, so it's getting stuff off the ground and then having a team to support them. The generator, the manifesting generator, may do everything themselves, but again, we're designed to do the things that light us up. So if there are certain parts of the business, again, that you really don't enjoy, is getting in a team to support you in just the bits that you don't like. The projector is managing that energy and making sure you're not burning out throughout the day. And a reflector, you would have to be very mindful of who you had around you. And so not just about having a team, but who that team is, because you'll be taking on the energy of literally everyone and everything around you. So as I mentioned, in general, as you move through looking at your human design, pay attention to just in general, without necessarily needing to know what they all are, but how many centers you have defined, how many are undefined, because the ones that are colored in are the ones where it's kind of your energy and you will have your own thoughts and feelings. And where you have undefined centers, it's where you take on the energy of others. Now, they do all have different meanings. And so if, for example, you have an undefined emotional solar plexus, so this one is white, you take on the emotions of others and amplify it. So if you were to have a guest that was unhappy, say, or you had that difficult guest. If you have that center undefined, you're going to take on and almost like feel that, like really, like kind of much more than somebody who had it defined. So again, knowing little things like that is protecting yourself from an unhappy guest. Could someone else in the team do it who had a defined emotional center so it didn't affect you as much? That kind of thing. So with all of these, if you have any of these here undefined, it's where other energy can come in and you can take it on. And so if you were to delve deeper into your human design, you would look at each one of these and see what it meant for you and where you needed to protect yourself. So if you have an undefined root, even if you have that defined sacral, you could still get burnt out because it's a pressure center and you might feel pressure from others. So again, you might feel pressure from your guest that's not really there. My kind of example for this, my generic example of having an undefined root is if you're sitting in the kitchen or you're doing something and someone in your household walks through and says, "Oh, did you pick up the dry cleaning?" They are asking you a question. If you have a defined route, you are likely to just answer yes or no and think nothing of it. If you have an undefined route, that external question can get turned into pressure, and you can actually feel like it's not a question, it's them putting pressure on you to have done something. So your reactions are likely to be, "Oh my God, no, I didn't. I'm so sorry. Um, I'll go get it now." And external things can be turned into pressure, and that's where people can burn out. So again, understanding that the demands that you might hear from a guest or something you feel you need to be doing, which you don't actually really need to do. And in general, with the energy, all of these ones that say motor center, they are the ones that produce energy for you. So the more of those you have colored in, the more energy you have of your own energy you have. If you only have one, it's managing your energy levels to suit your business to make sure that you're not going to get burnt out. Does anyone have any questions so far? If you do, pop it in the chat. Yvonne, you're unmuted. I can't see your face, your photo. You've got your photo.
Oh
So I
yeah,
didn't know if you're going to ask a question.
I switched my video off, but I'm here. I haven't got any questions yet, but there might be a bit of a delay. That was fascinating about, if you have an unhappy guest, then somebody with an undefined emotional center is going to take on that energy of that guest and take it really personally,
Yeah.
right? And more so than someone who has a defined emotional center. That's very
Yes.
interesting, that is.
So each of these centers has its own role. And if you have it defined, it's kind of like I said, it is your energy. If it's undefined, so it's white, you take on energy. So Lisa, so if your G center, which is that one, your throat and emotional center is right. So it means you're a manifestor, which I already said. So if you have the emotional solar plexus defined, that means, Lee, that you are potentially going to be more, not immune to, but not as affected by other people's emotions. It's more you're in your own emotions. The G center is all about identity. So potentially the identity, if it is defined, colored in, which you said it is, that means you are likely to have your own fixed identity and it won't change that much as you grow or get older, you'll kind of always like what you like and probably not change it much. Whereas someone with an undefined center there may consistently, I mean, I'm making this up, but may consistently change the decor in their B&Bs and their hosting places, because you kind of, yeah, people with a undefined G center can be kind of chameleons. So I think I read David Bowie had like an undefined G center. So he was always David Bowie, but he was always redefining himself with his different kind of ideas and identity. So like I said, each of these has a different role. So Marie, the colors on this are just to kind of help make it separate so you can see the different shapes and colors. But actually, whether you do human design with me, whether you do human design with anyone else, the colors mean nothing. So all that you need to worry about, like here, is if it's colored in. So to answer Callie's question, if it's colored in, it's defined. If it's white, it is undefined. So the difference between the undefined and open, which is the next level almost, is all these little numbers inside are called gates, which we're not going to go into today. But if it's open, there's no gates active. So if anyone has an open center, it does make a difference. So if you do have that, you might be interested in doing a human design reading or kind of taking that further, because there's a slight difference between having an open center and an undefined center. Have I answered everybody's questions there, Yvonne? Have I been through?
So, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, colors of, obviously this is my branding colors. So when you get a human design chart from me, it's in those colors. If you get a human design chart from the Jovian Archive, it's black and red. But actually the colors mean nothing. It's just not what the color is not important. It's like paying attention to either it's colored in or it's not. That's the bit that's important. It would be much better if we didn't brand our stuff and everyone just all used the same colors. It would be more helpful for everyone else, wouldn't it? So the next thing I wanted to go on to, which I think would be useful just as a starter foundation of things that you can implement straight away, is profile lines. So further down, whenever you've got a chart, you will hopefully see somewhere something. I'll type it in the chat. My profile is like 2/4. So you will see hopefully somewhere on your chart two numbers. It might be you're 2/4 like me, aren't you, Yvonne?
Yes.
But you might see it says 3/5 or something like that. Now that is the profile is it's not necessarily your personality, but it gives a real insight into how you move through the world and how you interact with others. And your profile is made up of two different numbers. So what you in a combination, they have a specific kind of role as a combination, but what we can do to start with is just look at the individual numbers. So Lee, in this thing, you would read what it says about line 1 and you would read what it says about line 5. So anyone with a 1, whether it's before the number, before the line, after the line, that is known as the investigator, the knowledge seeker, the foundations. So anything you're doing in your business, you're likely to want to dive deep into it, become an expert, get the knowledge, and really kind of want to feel grounded and want to feel you like going deep into your subject. You like kind of so it's called the investigator, because once something kind of captures your attention, you're kind of all in and you really go into it. Line 2, the hermit, is also the natural genius. So for line 2s, you sometimes don't really know how you know. And so it's not questioning it. and just letting it be. So if you have a 2 in your profile, you might just know that you need to do something in your business, but you're not sure how you know, but just go with it. But the other side of a line 2 is the hermit, which is someone who needs time on their own and needs to get away from everyone else. So when you combine things in your human design, it can amplify things. So obviously, I'm a manifesting generator. I have all the motor centers defined. I have the most amount of energy, but because I have the 2, I still need my time on my own. Whereas Yvonne, she's got the combination of being a projector and having to manage her energy, but she's also got the 2.
Yeah.
And so that's why you did tell me the story, didn't you, Yvonne, about how you didn't you just wouldn't let people in
No,
until the time
that's right.
that you said.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't let guests arrive until the time I had decided. And I let everybody know that they could arrive between this time and that time. But if anybody showed up outside of those times, I didn't open the door, right?
So
Because
that
that's how I became a good host, right? And I recognize that about myself. I mean, I've known about human design for many years, although I've learned more about it in the last couple of years from you, Katie. Um, but I think that that was hard for people around me who weren't projectors or hermits, and it sometimes came across as a bit odd to my family that I did that. But I had to do that in order for me to be a good host.
yes. And I think that's the thing. Once you start to use or understand human design, you can start to use the language. So I now, so I'll move on to the others and then I'll come back to that analogy. Actually, it'll make more sense in a minute. So line 3s are the experimenters, the explorers, the discoverers, the trial and errorers. So if you've got a 3 in your profile, a 3 needs to try to know if it's going to work for them or not. So if you've got any ideas in your business, anything you want to implement in your B&B, do it and then you'll know whether you like it or not. And I always use the analogy of like a child who if a child has a 3 in their profile, if there's a radiator and somebody tells the child the radiator is hot, like me, I was like, oh, hot, don't touch the radiator. But a 3 would go, I'm going to try for myself and see. And then they would only learn by doing. And so I have a lot of clients with 3 energy, and it's not quite the same, but one of them wasn't sure if they wanted a membership or not. But the only way they're really going to know is to open the membership, see if they like it. If they don't, then they close it. But what a 3 has to have is a real learning mindset, because a 3 is potentially going to go down a route of trying something, realizing it wasn't for them, so have to backtrack. And if you're not in the right mindset, you might think you failed. So for a 3, it really is all about making sure you are in that mindset of there is no fail for a 3, because you will learn by trying these new things, these new ideas. I'm going to give everyone a buffet breakfast. Oh, actually, that was rubbish. I hate it. I'm going to give everyone a cooked breakfast. And so you have to really make sure that you're not thinking, oh my God, I keep changing and I've failed. The
Wow, that's
4,
amazing. That's amazing, that analogy, actually.
that has made a big difference to any client I has worked with that has a 3 in their profile. It is the mindset around, for them there is no fail. It's I mean, for everybody there isn't. But I, like a 1, is probably not going to do any experimenting until they have properly investigated it, researched it, done everything. Whereas a 3, they could do all the investigating they liked. They're still not going to want to know if they they're still going to know even if they've done it, but they just need to do it and see. The 4 is the networker. So again, anyone with a 4 is going to naturally be a great connector, a networker. but it is more around the people you know. So you might find that lots of people come and stay who are friends of friend, recommended by the person who stayed last time. And a 4 is really all about the people, all about the networking, and has this close connection and it's called the opportunist because the opportunities for a 4 tend to come from people they know. They meet someone recommends them, and then it opens a door to something else somewhere along the line. A 5 is the universal solution provider. So as we start to go up through this line 4, 5, and 6, I would like to think of it like a Wi-Fi signal. So you know a Wi-Fi signal, you've got the little bar, then you've got the next bar, then you've got the next bar. The 4 is almost like the first bar. So their projection of energy tends to reach their closer circle of friends, and their impact is like friends of friends and kind of maybe slightly closer. A 5 is that next bar up on your Wi-Fi signal, and is actually more likely to interact with complete strangers and just strike up conversation with random people in the supermarket, at the bus stop, and thing. And you'll find 5s tend to maybe do a lot of public speaking or be on stages and kind of can have a universal message that it really doesn't matter if they have a connection to the person or not. The thing about the 5 is because they are seen as a solution provider, it's sort of a projected profile where other people project onto them of what the solution is. So if you are a B&B host or having, something, you might find all of your guests just feel or somehow know that you will have the solution for them. So they might start asking all these questions like, how do I get to the station? How do I do this? How do I do this? Can I do this? And for a 5, boundaries is very important because yes, a 5 generally does have the solutions, but a 5 has to decide for themselves, what solution do they want to provide. So again, if your guests are asking you all these questions about all these different things, you might need to put boundaries in as to what, can they get to the station? What time's the train? Where's the taxi? All this stuff. It might be that you have to really sort of put some boundaries in there. The 6 is the role model. The 6 is kind of complicated. I put some notes down there to explain. So the 6s have 3 phases of their life. And phase 1 actually has that energy of the 3. So you might resonate with the 3 energy there. Phase 2 is kind of a period of reflection and learning from all that experimentation. And then phase 3, from around the age of 50, is where you step into the role of the role model, because you've learned from all that experimentation and guiding others, and then your wisdom is literally here to be shared with everybody. So if I go back to the questions, Marie said, I'm a 6-3, used to be a chemist. Is that what made me good at both? So being a chemist, yes. So you would be, it's the ultimate experimenter, isn't it? Trying and seeing, not being afraid to see what works. So you've kind of got, as a 6-3, you're like a double experimenter. So that's really good. And Lee, that's you talking to people, that's from your 5. So Callie, you feel like you're in opposition to 4. So yes, that's what I was going to come on to. So I don't know if this is what you mean, but some of the profiles are in harmony and they work well together. Some of the profiles, when you put them together, they actually are like the opposites, and you can feel a bit discombobulated. I, as a 2, like I said, the 2 is the hermit, the 4 is the networker. I could never really work out whether I was an introvert or an extrovert. Sometimes I loved being around people. Sometimes I couldn't think of anything worse. And I didn't want to speak to anybody. And what I learned to do, which is also what Yvonne's learned to do, is manage that energy and manage that time between being the network. So as a host, your four is going to love the hosting and be talking to all the people and love it, but only if you have given enough time to that two energy to recuperate, retreat, be on your own. Like the four is not a sustainable, like forever energy. Even just the four has an element of retreat in it. So when you then add that into the two, like so managing the balance of that 2-4 is really important.
Mm.
So is that what you meant, Callie, when you said you're in opposition? Because the 2 and the 4 are literally the opposites. So it is a bit like that. So yeah, introvert, so true. I'm the same, introvert, and then I do enjoy people, need to get a push. I so loving my space away. Yeah. It is interesting, all of this, and obviously this is really a really quick as much as I can fit into the into the time. So if you are, if anything I've said out there, I've got one more slide, but if anything I've said, you're like, oh, that's 6, or oh, that 2, you know, dive deeper into it. If you know what you're looking for, Google can be your friend with human design. The problem with human design is if you just get given the chart, you don't know what you're looking for. But if you're thinking, oh, yes, that too, I want to explore that more, Google it. Profile line 2, human design, profile line 6, human design. So what I've given here is like a kind of little what to watch out for if you have one of these lines in your profile. So if you have a line 1 in your business, because you do, so no matter what you're doing within your B&B, or maybe you're thinking about changing something, or you're thinking about kind of doing something, a 1 to feel safe and secure needs to feel like it knows enough, but really you'll never know enough. So if it's like, don't delay taking action because you feel like you don't know enough, because that can really hold a 1 back, and they will keep researching, I don't know, let's say you're buying a brand new piece of something that's going to revolutionize your thing. Like, don't research it forever. At some point you've got to actually buy it, you've actually got to do it. A line 2, so the line 2 has the 2 flavors. It's the hermit, but also the natural genius. So for a line 2, we tend to not recognize our own gifts. So the reason I became a cake maker, I now see in my history, like that was my 2. So cake making was my hobby, but everyone else kept telling me I was really good at it, kept telling me I was great at it. And it took me a long time to recognize that I was good at cake making. And so there might be parts of your B&B where you are really good at doing some part of it, or making guests feel a certain way, or something. And if you actually start to listen, if you've got a 2 in your profile, what do people keep telling you that you're great at, and actually letting it in and owning it. So a 2 will often doubt themselves and think they're not as good as they really are. Do you resonate with that, Yvonne?
I certainly do, Katie. I certainly do. I had a good way to look at yourself. If you've got a 2, a good way to see how genius you are is to read your reviews and really take in those good things that people are saying about you, and own them. I used to get my reviews out from time to time and just read them to remind myself how good I was as a host. Because having that line 2, it's not easy to recognize your own gifts. It's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, now I understand it. So like with human design, it was never my intention to explain human design to other people, really. But I noticed everyone wanted me to, and everyone kept telling me I was really good at explaining it. And everyone kept asking me to, and I was like, oh, here we go again. Here we go. I recognized it that time round. The three, like I said, I mentioned this already, but making sure you have a learning mindset. There is no fail, only evolution. So you are designed to experiment. If there's some idea that you want to introduce into your business, into your bed and breakfast, go for it and do it and just try it. And then if you change your mind and you actually think, oh, that didn't work how I thought it was, absolutely fine, because it holding back on that feeling will be where you get frustrated and you kind of all that energy has nowhere to go. So just allow yourself, if you have the three energy, to experiment and don't worry about what other people think. So again, I knew or I know I worked with a while back a 6-3, and they very much held themselves back because they worried about what other people thought. They didn't want to be seen as flighty.
Mm,
So they had a real, and again, that comes from the conditioning. That's a conditioning of a perception that they had, that society has. People that keep changing their minds or people that change direction are flighty, oh, what are they doing now? Like, can't they stick to anything? Like, what's going on? But once you start to understand the whole system and how it all works together, they're not flighty at all. It's how they're designed to be and how they move through and how they make the discoveries that the rest of us didn't bother even trying. So because that child might go along and actually find the radiator was turned off and we were all wrong. So yeah. So the 4, I mentioned about the networker. So the kind of shadow side of the 4 is we do like our stability. So we like our sort of safety and our connections and things. But so again, it says connections that are no longer right for you. I would say potentially in this industry, if you had a supplier that really wasn't actually doing a very good job anymore, or they'd put their prices up or something. And 4s don't like letting go. I don't know if do you notice that, Yvonne? Like you're very loyal. 4s are
yes,
very
extremely
loyal.
loyal. Yeah, extremely loyal to a fault, actually.
And actually, if you separate that from the business, if your supply keeps letting you down or the price keeps going up or whatever, you have to make that distinction between loyalty as a 4 and it's a business. And maybe there is, I don't know, maybe there's a client or a guest that keeps coming back and they keep wanting a discount or they keep wanting this, and you have this like connection to them, but actually your life would be a lot easier if they stopped coming to stay and you had somebody else who came instead and actually just paid and didn't give you any trouble. So
That's so true. Can I just tell a quick story about that? So true. We used to do, when we ran our B&B in France, we used to do champagne tours. We used to take guests out on champagne tours. But in the beginning, we felt, as a family, an English family living in France, that we didn't have the necessary Frenchness to do
okay.
that thing, right? And so we got to know a guy in the village who said that he would do tours, right? And we thought, perfect, a Frenchman can do this. This is a French thing, and we'll connect the guests. And this is a 4 strategy as well. The networker connects people to people. But he did okay to begin with, but then he started letting us down. And
Oh,
then
okay.
and then it wasn't convenient for him to do a tour on this day. And then he said yes, and then he didn't show up. And it took me a while, right, to say nope, not working with him anymore. We're going to do it. But that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, letting go of connection. So in your personal life, like human design as a system, it applies to your life, your business, it applies to anything. But I struggle with letting go of friends. And the saying, isn't it, like people come into a life, or is it a reason, a season, or a lifetime? Like I'm like trying to hold on to the people who clearly were only meant to be there for a season. So yeah, a 4, that's a trait of a 4. We do like our stability and holding on to things. So sometimes you just gotta let them go. Um, so I think I mentioned this a bit. The 5, the teacher, the solution provider. You're not here to save everyone. So make sure you do distance yourself from being projected upon, being mindful of your own boundaries. So yeah, again, it's like almost like having needy guests. Making sure that obviously you want to be a perfect host and you want to help them out with anything they might, but it's almost like a 5 attracts people wanting them to just solve their problems for them, and that again can be in I know a lot of 5s, and they have that with their friends and their family and people just wanting them to solve life's problems for them. So not just in a business sense, a 5 needs to kind of hold that boundary across the lot. I don't know if that resonates with you, Lee. I don't know if people are always trying to come and get you to solve their problems for them. So the role model, obviously you move into that kind of phase depending on how old you are. You might be in the 3. Yes, can you tell my mother?
Tell my mother.
Can get her to it's just like screen record this little part of the presentation. So yeah, as a 6, like I said, if you are a 6, it is good to again Google like the 3 phases of the 6. But for you to be able to step into that role model, you have to have the space for the perspective so that all that experimenting can get turned into lessons. So a 6 needs to really own it, and it's probably maybe a little bit intimidating, a bit daunting, like to be a role model for somebody. But you might find yourself dishing out lots of wisdom to your guests, and they love chatting to you and like see you as the wise person, and have deep, meaningful, wonderful conversations as a host, and kind of end up talking about their whole life or something. I'm not sure. I don't know if that again it is kind of
I think that happens to you, doesn't it, Marie? I think that happens to you a lot.
It does happen. So Marie, were you the 6-3?
Yeah.
So yeah, as a
Projector,
6,
yeah.
you have a lot of wisdom to share with us as a 6. So we will be drawn to you for your wisdom, and yeah. So yes, my mouse has gone all click happy now. So
She says it dumbfounds me that a person I just met tells me their entire life story.
looking for some wisdom from you, Marie.
Yeah.
They can tell that you are wise. So human design is a multifaceted, multi-system thing. Like on the chart here, every single square, circle, line, planet, arrow has a meaning and a layer. So the only way you can work through your human design is to, I have to do it. We have to do it in a linear order. So the thing that makes the most difference is your type, which is why I kind of started there, which then kind of leads on to the amount of energy you have. So then we start to look at the centers of where you take on energy, which energy is yours, which energy you're taking on. And then we layered in your profile. But human design, like your chart is the addition of everything together. So I am a 2-4 right here. So actually the 2 and the 4 come from those numbers after the decimal points at the top. But if you look at the rest of my chart, there's lots and lots of 5s and 1s. So I actually have quite a lot of 5 and 1 energy as well. And it's what I've said today. If anything doesn't fit, don't force it. Don't make it fit, because there might be some other part of your chart that almost like gives it a slightly different lens. So the way I love an analogy, it's part of my human design. But I always like to say human design with all the different parts and all the different pieces is how it comes together. So if you take some flour, butter, eggs, milk, sugar, how you combine them, you might get a cake, you might get some pancakes, you might get a Yorkshire pudding. So even though the individual pieces that I've just been through have their own role. As you add them together, sometimes you get a slightly different thing. Like I said, when you add Yvonne's projector to her 2, get a slightly different result to adding my manifesting generator to the 2. So always, whenever anyone's telling you anything about human design, if you're looking at any part in isolation, don't fixate on it. That's like the kind of, housekeeping rules with that. And just in case, if anybody does want to know more, I have a Facebook group, Your Introduction to Human Design. That's what it says on the tin. And I break things down and have got different bits and bobs so that you can dive in. So if you're on Facebook, you can just Google that, type it in, should come up with the same graphic. Or my link tree is Piece of Cake Coaching if you did want to know anything else. So does anyone have any questions? Does anybody want me to go over any of it again or anything, or how are we doing, Yvonne?
That's brilliant, Katie. Thank you. I mean, that was really, really very, very insightful. And we're just coming up to the top of the hour. So we'll close off in a minute. And if you do want to get more help from Katie, feel free to either join her Facebook group or go to her link tree. Can you put that link in the chat for the link tree so that people can find you in various places?
Oh, okie dokie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do some techie tack. Hang on.
Yeah.
Go to me Google, type it in.
Video back on.
Yes, here we go. I will do that. So yes, did anyone have any light bulb moments or anything? You gonna change anything or do anything differently?
You're welcome, Lee. I'm glad you found it helpful.
So Lee, do you have a team or do you try and do everything yourself? That would be my main question for a manifester.
I think that's my question for all B&B owners, right?
Of course, by myself. Okay. Yeah, so it's so for a manifester, the best way is to be able to pass over the other things that you don't have the energy for. But I mean, again, for everybody, having a team that supports you with all the different areas, it's just trying to work out what level of support you need and whether you can support yourself. So you did a lot of the support for yourself by having the time to yourself, and that was your support system. Other people would potentially have more people as their support. So it's finding your own support system, isn't it, within it?
Yeah, and for me as well, I had a team of people. I couldn't do it all because I would have run out of energy very quickly if I tried to do all of the cleaning and the laundry and all of the the day-to-day running of the thing. I just personally couldn't do that being a projector, and then not having any time to myself. I tried that in the beginning. I must admit, I did it in the beginning because I thought I had to, And I think if there's one thing I've learned from you, Katie, is that we're conditioned. We're all conditioned to behave in a certain way, and not that it's easier for generators and manifesting generators, but the world is more designed for people who like doing things.
Yes. Like I said, projectors, my dad, my mum called him lazy.
Yeah.
And now I know, I mean, I didn't even discover human design until after my mum was no longer here. But now I know he's a projector. I'm like, yeah, makes sense. He's not lazy. He was just protecting his energy. But like you said, I think because the majority of the world are generators and manifesting generators, it just makes sense. The majority, anything tends to happen. But the amount of conditioning we have, but what human design can do if you do decide to go deeper is those centers, whether they're colored in or uncolored in, tends to be where they're blank is where the conditioning tends to come in more.
Where they're not colored in.
Where they're undefined, it's easier. I mean, I have a defined throat, but I was still conditioned out of my throat. So it's still, you can still the conditioning can still come in, but it's just when you're looking, it's like a star. I would say human design is almost like a better starting point for your
Mm.
experiment. It gives you instead of just trying everything, it gives you a starting point for the trying,
Mm.
to experiment with. And yeah, that permission that when you start seeing the stuff, like, no, I do need the time on my own. I do. You just stop questioning it and you just do it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Callie said, I love the perspective of applying this information to running a B&B. Very insightful. I used to see my husband as lazy, and now reframing, he is great at planning and directing. Voila.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is off subject and we're over time,
Mm.
but what has happened actually with a lot of my clients is they've started looking at the human design of their children. And I had one who had a manifesting generator and a projector, and her approach was chuck them both in the garden, burn off some steam. Projector didn't need to burn off any steam. Projector needed to sit in the corner quietly and read a book and not do anything. Manifesting generator needed to go in the garden. And now she hasn't delved into their design, even just those little bits, just with having the two completely different children has helped her to see that he actually is really good at directing them. And so she doesn't get annoyed anymore, like her projector child bossing her around.
I had the same experience with my girls. You know, I have a generator and a reflector.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
And,
The
and the
reflector.
my reflector daughter, you know, she couldn't get out of bed in the morning to go to school. She liked nothing better than to be in her room by herself reading. She read all the time. I remember one time when the Harry Potter, one of the Harry Potter books came out, and we were living in France. That's where we were living, and they grew up there. And we would make a trip to the UK several times a year, and we would go straight to the bookstore and get the latest Harry Potter book. And no sooner had we left the store, she was reading the book going down the street. It was incredible, just completely switched off and went into her own world.
Yeah.
And then
But
my
she
generator,
was protecting her energy naturally and didn't
naturally,
even realize it. And then I think what can happen, like you say, with the conditioning is like if you have a child that doesn't want to get out of bed, you're like, come on, you got to get up, you got to get up. But actually, there's a lady who is famous with she's one of the original teachers, Karen Curry Parker. Her
yeah,
daughter is a projector, and there's a reel of her saying basically on Saturday, so that her daughter can go to school, can do all the after clubs, do all the stuff on the Saturday, she doesn't get out of bed,
right,
but they just let her until she's ready.
yeah.
So when she's ready, she comes down and she joins in. But most parents would not let their child do that. But so this is where I've ended up talking about human design in so many things because you can apply it to anything. You can apply it to your relationship, your children, your business, yourself. So once people do tend to start going down it, it can make a big difference. And that's why I'm so passionate about it because it can help you understand everybody else's role and stop the judgments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much. That was really lovely. And if anybody hasn't got their human design, then let me just put the link again in the chat before we close. You can click on it immediately, and then you'll have that. Download your human design chart, and I would say the best thing to do is read the stuff on the right hand side, and see how you can apply it to your B&B or to your life or to your relationship or wherever you feel that you need to make a change because things aren't working for you. Just admit the fact that something isn't working, and then apply one of the things that you learn from your human design chart and see what a difference that will make for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey. It is human design in itself as an experiment because as you uncover stuff, you will adjust stuff. And like any marketing strategy or business strategy, human design is just a strategy, and you would adjust the stuff and see if it makes a difference, see if you feel easier. The other thing, like as you're going down, is the not self theme. So for manifestors, it's anger. For the generators, manifesting it's like frustration. For projectors, it's bitterness. And if you recognize that sign, we didn't cover that today, we didn't have time, but that again is a sign that you're out of alignment and you've said yes to something you should have said no to.
The not
Um,
self thing is so powerful, so
yeah,
powerful, a real barometer, really.
yeah.
All
Anyway, we
right.
could stay here all day.
Yes. Thank you so much, Katie. Lovely to have you. And I'm going to end the webinar now, and then I will get the recording up. Thank you very much, darling.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye for now.